Happy Thursday! Let's begin our last Bible lesson of the week with prayer. Here we go. Now, before I run to play, let me not forget to pray to God who kept me through the night and woke me with the morning light. Amen. All right, kindergartners, our plan for today is to talk more about the 10 plagues, those 10 terrible things that God allowed to happen to the Egyptians so that Pharaoh would finally let God's people go, let the Israelites go and be on their own and be free. We're going to talk more about that, and then we're going to read from our rhyming Bible that retells the whole story. And then I'll talk to you about the fun little project that you'll get to color and cut out and fold later. It'll be really fun. So first, let's talk again about what happened after Moses went to Pharaoh. Remember, Pharaoh was not a nice man. He lied, he did not believe in God, and he treated the Israelites terribly. And even though God told him to let God's people go the first time, he should have listened that first time, shouldn't he have? It shouldn't have taken 10 terrible things, but that first terrible thing that God allowed to happen was that river of blood. Moses took his staff, Aaron's staff, and he went to the Nile River and he turned it into blood so that they couldn't drink the water. It smelled bad. It was so nasty and terrible. And Pharaoh said, "Oh, Moses, if you take away the river of blood, you can have your people back. That's fine." But he didn't listen, did he? After the river went back to normal, he said, "All right, back to normal. The Israelites are going to keep being my slaves." And so God had to do something else. He sent all the frogs. Remember, the frogs were everywhere. They were in their beds, on their clothes. And then you saw this picture with all those frogs everywhere. Look at this. This guy has frogs on his back. This guy is saying, "Oh my goodness, there's frogs on my legs." It was terrible. They couldn't do anything. They were everywhere. And that still wasn't enough for Pharaoh, was it? He still said, now that the frogs are gone, I still need the Israelites. Sorry. And so God sent the third plague, the plague of gnats. Remember, gnats are kind of like mosquitoes. The mosquitoes were everywhere and the gnats were everywhere. And Pharaoh said to Moses, "If you pray to your God and you take away the gnats, you can have the people back." But of course he didn't listen again. God took away the gnats and he still didn't listen. So then God said, "All right, if you didn't listen after the river of blood, the frogs, or the gnats, how about flies? Maybe now you'll listen to me." So flies were everywhere. So gross, all over everything. And that still wasn't enough, was it? Pharaoh still didn't let his people go after Moses prayed and took it away. Then God sent a disease to all the livestock of the whole country, except for the Israelites, actually. Any animals that belonged to an Israelite did not die. But all the animals that belonged to the Egyptians, they didn't live anymore. How terrible. But that still wasn't enough to get Pharaoh to listen to God. He still did not let God's people go after Moses told him so many times. So then God sent a disease to the people. He sent really, really painful sores on their arms and their legs and their bodies. It was so painful. And Pharaoh said, "Okay, I beg you, Moses, if you take away the boils and the sores, then you can be free." So God took away the disease, the boils and the sores. Pharaoh still didn't listen, did he? He still kept the people. So that led God to the seventh plague, the seventh terrible thing, the hailstorm. Remember the hailstorm? destroyed all their food, all their fields of crops and corn and whatever else. All those plants were dead. And it was storming, and anyone else that was outside got hit with those huge pieces of hail, and they actually died because it got hit them so hard. And it stormed and it stormed. And Pharaoh said, "If you take away this terrible storm, Moses, you can have your people back." And of course, once again, God took away the storm, and Pharaoh did not keep his promise, did not keep his word. So that led God to the eighth plague, the plague of locusts, where those grasshoppers, those kind of cricket-like animals, they're called locusts, those were everywhere. So they ate all the food and ate all the food that was left, if there was any left from that terrible storm. So now the Egyptians really didn't have any food. And of course, once again, Pharaoh said, "If you take away the locusts, you can have your people back." And once again, he lied. So that led God to the ninth plague, the plague of darkness. You can see that blackness over everywhere. And it was dark for 3 whole days, remember? They couldn't go anywhere, do anything. And Pharaoh said, "God, if you take away the darkness, then I will let the Israelites go and you can have them." And of course, he still didn't let God's people go, even after he let it be light again. So that was the last straw. That was the last time that God couldn't put up with this anymore. So he had to send the 10th and worst terrible plague, which was the plague of the firstborn, where every single firstborn son of an Egyptian died, right? They died because that was their punishment for not listening so many times. They should have listened the first time, but they didn't, did they? But remember, the Israelites were saved from this plague because they listened to God's special instructions. They took the blood of that lamb, remember, put it around their doorpost, and then God's angel, when he went through Egypt, he passed right over any house with that blood. So just like the blood of Jesus saved us, the blood of that lamb saved all those Israelites from that firstborn plague. How amazing, right? And that was the time that Pharaoh finally listened. He said, "Moses, take your people and go. I don't want them anymore because of the terror that is in Egypt now." Well, they finally could leave. They packed up. Remember, you colored this little piece of the Israelites packing up and ready to go. What we're going to do now is read from our rhyming Bible. And the part that we read today is actually going to go into the next part of the story, the next amazing part. And that's going to go with your project that goes with this story today. So pay attention to the new parts at the end, and you'll start to find out what happened as the Israelites started to leave Egypt. So let's start the rhyming Bible story. Here we go. It says, Moses grew up in the house of the king. He lived in a palace with every good thing. But then one day he made the king mad. So he ran far away and left what he had. So Moses didn't live in the palace with the Pharaoh's daughter forever. He did have to leave eventually, and then he became a shepherd, remember? Moses tended sheep until a certain day when he saw the burning bush that didn't burn away. He heard God speaking in a voice loud and clear, "Go down to Egypt and bring my people here." So that was the burning bush story that we heard about earlier this week. Look, there's their bush that's on fire, but it didn't burn up because it was special, wasn't it? God told Moses through that bush that my special job for you is to go to Egypt and Pharaoh and fight for my people and let them go and help let them go. So Moses went to Pharaoh And this is what he said: "Let God's people go." But Pharaoh shook his head. "Then they all belong to me, and I won't let them go. Besides, I will not listen to a God I do not know." So this was Pharaoh. He was an unbeliever, wasn't he? He did not believe in God, and he said, "I will not even listen to a God because I don't believe in him." So there's Moses saying, "Let my people go." So here come all the 10 plagues, right? All the terrible things. The Lord said to Moses, "Listen to my plan. When I'm through with Pharaoh, he will be a different man. I'll fill the land with locusts and pesky frogs and flies, but he still won't let them go, for he isn't very wise. So I'll send more plagues till the king agrees that the Israelites can go and do as they please." So there's a picture of some of the plagues that God sent, right? The chances that God gave Pharaoh to listen. So he sent the frogs, the locusts that ate all the food. See, they're on the wheat, they're eating it up. And the flies. That's just a few of all those terrible plagues, right? But they still didn't listen until that last one, right? The last firstborn son plague. At that time, he said, "Okay, you can go now." So here's the page where we'll get into the new part where what happens after the Israelites start to pack up and leave. Here's what it says: Pharaoh wasn't happy with all that God had planned. At last, he told the Israelites that they could leave his land. But just as they were leaving, Pharaoh changed his mind. He chased them with his soldiers, which wasn't very kind. God said, "Listen, you can trust in me." So he blazed a path through the waters of the sea. When the soldiers tried to follow, they fell into the sea. Then the people all shouted, "God has set us free." So what actually happened was Pharaoh changed his mind again for a 10th time. After they had packed up and started to leave, he sent his army after them. And what he did was he allowed the Israelites to escape by letting them walk straight through the sea. He did another amazing miracle. He allowed the water to part in the middle so they could walk straight through. There was walls of water on both sides of them so that they could walk on dry land straight across the sea to allow them to get to be free to their own land. Isn't that amazing? And then when the soldiers followed back, then the waters crashed on them. God did not spare those soldiers because they were trying to hurt God's people, weren't they? So that's as far as we're going to take it with our rhyming Bible. And so you started to learn at the end what happened at the end of that story, where God parted the waters in the sea so that the Israelite people could walk through. We're going to talk a lot more about that next week. But your assignment for today is to color this piece, which is under Thursday in your packet. So find Thursday. And underneath there is the page that you get to color and cut out for today. You'll see that this one is blank. What you have to do is color the middle part brown because they crossed that sea on dry land in the middle of a body of water. That's amazing. So you have to color that part brown because it was dry land. But on the bottom and on the top, that's water because you can fold it up. Eventually, we'll fold it up so that it's like two walls of water. You can see that this is the dry land, and this is going to be the two walls of water that the people walked down. Isn't that amazing? This was called the Red Sea, the parting of the Red Sea. And we'll talk more about that next week. But what you have to do is color the middle part brown, color that top part that has the fish in there, color the water blue. And then on the bottom part, you can see that this is Miss Barsha. She colored this one, but she drew some little fish in there, a little shark even. I want you to try to draw a few fish in there too. I want you to do your best and try to draw some fish in that side of the water too. Here's how you make a fish if you don't know how. To make a fish, it's really easy. You might say, "Oh, Miss Ott, no, I'm not good at drawing." But really, it's really easy and fun. I'll show you. Here's how you can make a fish. If you know how to draw a circle and how to draw a triangle, then you can draw a fish. I'll show you. Here's what you do. You make a circle, right? Just round all the way around. That's a circle. And then you make a triangle right next to it, like that. And then that's the tail, and this is the body and the head of the fish. And then you can give it a smile and some eyes, and then you have a fish. If you want to get fancy, you can give it some fins on the top and the bottom and color it however you want. But I want you to try your best and draw a couple fish on that side. So, once again, your assignment is to take this page on Thursday, color the middle brown, color the fish, and draw your own fish and color those waters blue. And then cut it out so that we can fold it eventually. And then upload a picture of it so that I can see what nice coloring and cutting you did for this page for the Israelites escaping. It's really, really awesome story, isn't it? I hope you enjoyed listening to the incredible story of the 10 plagues, all that God did to protect and save his people and keep his promises to those people, right? Because God does that for us too. So, upload this to the yellow religion folder. I will see you guys next week for more religion stories. Bye.